My favorite thing about Seattle is that I have lived here since I was 9 years old. All my friends are family. They're all from here, so I know it like the back of my hand.
My favorite thing about living in Seattle is the vibe of the city and the people. One thing that I noticed I was really quite attracted to in terms of the city is that people just seem to be having fun. That creates its own atmosphere and a good energy that I like.
The thing I enjoy most about living in Seattle is that there's a lot of social options. There's always something going on. There's always a lot of different things to choose from. There's a lot of outdoor activities. There's a lot of artistic and social functions to choose from.
Well, I've tried to live in other places, but it's just no place like home. So it's just where I grew up, so I'm just used to living here. And everything just feels like it fits in.
I love how you can just walk down the street and see different faces. You're not going to see too much of one face.
My favorite thing about living in Seattle is waking up every day and having multiple choices of activities to do. I'm truly an outdoors, rain or shine. It's just the opportunities that Mother Nature has to offer.
It's not like New York, it's not like LA, it's not like Chicago, it's not like Baltimore, and I looked at all of those places before I moved here.
It's clean, environmentally friendly, people are excellent and very nice, so it's an easy place for me to live, and I've really enjoyed that aspect of it.
I am not afraid of being alone. I'm not afraid of not finding that perfect person for me. No.
I would have to say there are times that I do fear being alone, but I still consider myself a fairly young person and pretty resilient in the way I approach life and approach things. So my ultimate fear is of being alone, but I think I should be able to find someone in the short run.
I used to never think that it mattered. I thought I'd be fine, but as time's going on, I'm realizing I would like to have somebody there. So yeah, maybe I'm a little bit afraid of that. Never wanted to really admit it.
Yeah, I'm very afraid of being alone and not finding the right mate. There's times where if it rains, it pours, and you have lots of different options for dating partners and whatnot. And then there's times, months and months, where very lonely nights, sitting, staring at the ceiling, wondering what's wrong with me, or why haven't I found someone to share life and adventures with?
I don't think I'm afraid of being alone. I think the thought of being alone for the rest of my life is sad. It saddens me. But I'm not afraid of anything.
No, I don't really have those fears of being alone as I get older and older throughout the years. Matter of fact, I recently visited my 85-year-old dad down in Sacramento, California, and he's living in one of those senior-friendly apartment complexes now, and is surrounded by a terrific group of friends, and just living in life. And I can see myself being this also. I mean, if I never ever have that great opportunity to find a mate and get married to her, to possibly move into one of these great senior living complexes, the ratio of men and women, is definitely in favor of the guys, and so I don't have that fear of being alone. As a matter of fact, I'm looking forward to the years as they come about and being always surrounded by a great circle of friends.
My name is Ji, and I'm 26, and currently I am single. I've always been interested in the arts and the creative arts, so I've been trying to find an outlet for creative writing and perhaps illustration. So I've always been interested in finding a venue where I could express all of those interests. Well, I love love Seattle for many reasons. The people are very progressive for the most part, and it has a very lively art scene. A lot of people here are intellectual, they're very aware of what's going on in the world, and most of the time I'm very proud of Seattle. This has been said a lot by a lot of my friends from other cities, but Seattle has this thing where you're very polite to each other and you don't really become friends because you think you're friends, but then later on you realize you were just very nice, but you didn't really open up to each other. So there's that weird relationship where you're wondering, are we friends or are we conveniently close? Am I afraid of being alone? I'm going to have to say no, not really. I've never really felt lonely because I'm alone. And the possibility of never finding the right mate, I mean, there is that possibility, but I'd rather be alone and live with a pet or something like that, or a friend, than to hurry up and get married, as the older people say, because you're running out of time and you're gonna be old and ugly soon. You better get married soon, and I hear that a lot. But I'd rather wait, and if I don't find anyone, then I'm okay with that. Or someone I dated who said hurtful things to me all the time. He was very abusive, and he would play very passive-aggressive games. He would first pick a fight with me for a very trivial thing, like where I place my cactus plant. And we would start talking about it, and then he would go in circles and circles, and at the end of the 3-hour talk, I realized that he has a problem with something else that he wasn't bringing up. So I was like, why didn't you just tell me from the beginning that you were mad about this? And I don't know, he would just, drag me around this pit for 3 hours and then finally bring up this thing, which is just as trivial as the first thing he brought up. A lot of the times, if I don't say anything, they assume that I'm okay with whatever they're doing. So, and a lot of the times I tend to say even less when I'm unhappy. When I'm happy, I let them know that I'm happy. But if they're hurting my feelings, I don't say anything because I don't want to start a fight. So, it kind of feeds their self-affirmation by thinking, oh, she's okay with what I'm doing. Or she's just silent because she is guilty of the things I'm accusing her of when I'm not. Yeah, I get a lot of compliments about my smile. Because I used to smile very small when I was little, very shy, like, But now I'm just like, ah! And some people are like, oh my gosh. But a lot of the time they kind of grow into it and they like it. And I like my smile because it's open and it makes me feel open. It makes me feel like I'm opening wide to the world and taking everything in. So it makes me happy when I smile and laugh. If I could change something about the people who are constantly attracted to me, there are the types of people who want to take care of me because I look weak, because I'm small and petite. So a lot of guys try to buy me things and do things for me and try to be my protector, which is nice to a certain point, but then you realize that they have this thing going on in their heads where I'm the princess and they are the knight. And I would really rather they not look at just my weaknesses and try to be protective, because they're not my dad. And another thing is a lot of non-Asian men come after me because I look Asian. And they were like, no, I don't look at you that way, but a lot of the time they do. And I can tell. So I was just... I try to break the stereotype by the way I talk, the way I act, because a lot of the time when they think cute little Asian girl, They think of a mousy voiced, small Asian girl who asks them to buy things for them. And I'm not that. I'm opposite of that. I usually end up buying things for people. I don't like people doing things for me. And I talk, with a loud voice. I laugh really loud with my mouth really wide open. And if they say something kind of sexist to me, I would, point that out and be like, you're being sexist right now, blah, 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 blah. And people are like, oh my gosh. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what I thought. So I try to do that. I try to break the stereotype. Well, if I had been married from the beginning of my adult life, I think I would be happy in some ways, of course, having that person always being there for me. But in another way, I think I would be frustrated and unable to see why. Because I need some alone time to think things through. And if I'm always with someone else, if I have a problem with the relationship, I wouldn't be able to get away and think, what did I do wrong? I would just be fighting with that person. So I think it's, in a way, a good thing that I'm having these relationships, because although they are often bitter when I break up, they make me learn a lot more about myself. So, and of course there are the happy parts that I'm probably missing out on too, but yeah. Always being with someone, and if I had found someone, then always being with that person, having a family of my own, coming home to find someone waiting for me all the time. That would be different. That would be nice. For me, I think I would prefer a monogamous relationship, because if you can find different people to satisfy your different needs, then there's really no need for you to cater to anyone, and there's no need for you to try to become a better person. But if you are with one person, you have to learn to cater to that person, and that person vice versa. So it makes you both learn to compromise and become more mature, I think. And I think dedicating yourself to that one person is a road to learning what love is. So I'm a fan of monogamy. I think career aspirations themselves don't really play a role in my preference in my mate. I really wouldn't care if they were flipping burgers at McDonald's. And I really wouldn't care if they are some kind of CEO. What I would look for is how much they enjoy their lives. If you're flipping burgers and you're complaining about it every single day, then I would start to get frustrated. But if you are a hardworking person and you enjoy going somewhere with it, I mean, I don't care if you don't have a job even. If you have a goal and if you're hardworking and you have a dream, then I could really look up to that. The thing is, one of the things I look for in a person is independence. So that person needs to be able to feed themselves and not be dependent on other people all the time. So if I am with someone who is able to at least feed himself, I can do more than enough to feed myself, so I think that'll be okay. At least I can support myself and I'm not griping about it. I like doing my job. You know, if that person is able to financially support themselves while maintaining their passion for something, that's ideal. I actually ask myself often if I'm just afraid of being in a relationship because of my past relationships. And I wonder to myself, am I just making up excuses so I don't have to be in a relationship? But knowing my personality, if I find someone I'm really infatuated with, I just jump in, no matter what stops me. So I think I just haven't been attracted to anybody that way for quite some time. But if I do find someone, I'll probably just fall head over heels for that person. Yeah. I think at 65, I probably would have found somebody, because I like to think optimistically. I mean, I have no basis for believing otherwise, but I also have no basis for believing that I would have found someone, because I am picky. But I think 65, I would have had enough time to look around and hopefully found someone. A bad date that I've had once was when I was walking with my then boyfriend. I was in pain that day and I was not feeling well. So he was helping me walk basically because I was really bad off. And when we got to a certain point, he looked and saw a girl that he was once almost dating, but it didn't work out. But anyway, he saw this girl and he just let go of me and started walking really fast ahead of me and just like went somewhere. I don't know why he did that. I guess he didn't want to see her. He didn't want her to see him. It was awkward for them. So I was left behind staring at his back and at his retreating back. And I had to limp my way to catch up with him eventually until the girl was out of sight. And I asked him, what was that for? I mean, do you want to tell me about that? And he finally said, well, I almost dated her once. Thank goodness I didn't. Oh. And he just said some bad things about her. And for me, I was just like, okay, well, if you're that awkward and you just had to leave me there, okay, fine, whatever. I decided to forget about it. And I went to his place and we were drinking tea. And we were talking about our plans for the night. We were going to watch a movie together. And he said, yeah, and at that time, this other girl's gonna show up and go with us. And I said, wait, wasn't this between you and me? He's like, no, she's coming too. And this girl was a girl that he was always hanging out with, always. They would go drinking together, they would go to clubs together and shows together, and she was coming to our movie night. So I said, I thought it was just you and me. And he said, no, she and I are just friends. She's coming because she and I are friends and because she really wants to watch the movie too. And for me, that wasn't a good enough reason because she could go watch it herself or with her friend. So I thought that was kind of weird that I was hoping that he would understand that I was not comfortable with this because we didn't get to have a lot of time together, so I wanted to spend some time alone with him. But he didn't get that, and I didn't want to be like, I don't want her to come. But I was just trying to convey in a vague way that, I don't really understand his reasoning for this. And he didn't understand why I was unhappy about it. He said, well, she wants to watch the movie and she's a good friend of mine, so she's going. I think an ideal date for me would be just walking, taking a walk and talking, having a nice long conversation. It doesn't have to be anything serious like politics. I mean, it can be. We can talk about our favorite childhood pastimes, or it can be our favorite cartoons, or, it can be anything, or deep religious things, spiritual things, whatever, it doesn't matter. It'd be nice if we could have a conversation flowing where both of us contribute equally and we don't have to think up of new things to say. We just through a conversation in which we are not blocked by all these prejudices. We get to learn that we are all the same people. We share the same kind of joys and the same kind of sorrows. And learning that we can understand each other on a deeper than superficial level. I think a conversation is a good way to break down those barriers and start a beginning of a relationship. Because relationships, love, a lot of people regard love as an emotion, but emotions, they flicker out very easily and they change all the time. So you need something lasting, something more than attraction. And I think courtesy and respect, although they might seem like distant, cold terms, I think those things are very important backbones to building a healthy relationship.
One learning experience I guess I've had, I mean, I've had people have gone on wonderful dates, I thought, and then I get a Facebook message maybe 2 days later saying, hey, I know I said I would love to see you again and blah, 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 but I've changed my mind. Didn't think there was enough of a spark. And this is after, like, you know, taking her to Cary Park, all the right spots, the melting pot, like, man, I'm in, but yeah, those kind of messages via internet or what have you is always kind of a stab in the back.
Yeah, they accuse me of messing around with somebody else, and I'm just like, you gotta be kidding. There's no way. That's not me. And they accused that in relationship to my work. And I'm like, my work, promotions stand by my ability and what I've done. I have not gotten any promotions any other way. And I was appalled that somebody would even think that and talk and say something like that. That totally came out of the blue and shocked me.
Well, the worst thing someone else says, a potential mate had said to me was, she's actually my best friend, and she thought of me was more of a really good friend, like a brother instead of an actual boyfriend. So that kind of, sunk in and kind of sucked. But eventually we're still best friends, but it's better to have it like that than just to have nothing.
Yeah, we were out at a bar one night, and we were just having fun and laughing, joking and whatever, because you make a person laugh, that's always a good sign. So I'm making him laugh and everything's going well, and he was like, you know what, man, he was like, you have such a pretty face. And yeah, it says it was hurtful because I know what he really meant was that I wasn't necessarily his body type.
I think probably the worst thing a potential mate has ever said to me or done to me is let me know they just didn't want to be with me. And relationships is one of those things that it's a highly individualistic, personal thing for each and every one of us. I've learned the only thing I can control is me. I can't control how other people view me or think about me or feel about me or want to be with me. And so that's hurtful, especially when you invest a lot of time and effort and energy into it, and there comes that point where they're just not there on the same page or the same level for you. You have to realize that it's not personal, even though we tend to take it personally.
I live in Seattle area, and I own a matchmaking company. I also do a lot of love and relationship coaching in my business. And the main mission of my company is to help singles to find long-term relationships, to be fulfilled, happy, find their soulmate, and to feel loved and cherished. I've been always very spiritual and very intuitive. For the last, I would say, 18 maybe years, I've been studying psychogenetics and genophysics, and I was very interested in people's energies and brain and how our thoughts affects our actions, how our past conditioning predetermines our choices. It's pretty much how our subconsciousness affecting our behavior and predetermine the life we have today. I think Seattle is different from LA or New York. Seattle has all these big companies like Microsoft, Boeing, all the left side branded people are in here. They're less, maybe less in tune with their inner world, and they're more structural, more rational, maybe a little bit less open-hearted. And in general, creating connections with people might be more of a challenge here. And in addition to this, our weather is not really helping much when it's just like 9 months, it's rain, and not that you're going and sitting outside in the coffee shop under the sunshine and meeting other people. You kind of like kept indoors. So going and meeting each other become even double challenge for singles here.
Dear Sophia, I was referred to you by a couple friends of mine who thought you might be able to assist me in attracting the ideal partner in my life. I have always met wonderful people and I've appreciated the friendships I've built. What I seem to have trouble with is the ability to communicate openly and allowing myself to become vulnerable so as to make sure the man I'm communicating with knows how I feel and that he feels secure in the relationship itself. I hope that you can help me, and I look forward to speaking with you. Warmest regards, Lisa.
Adjusting to
So you
his
disregard
needs.
your own.
Oh, you totally
and
like,
you're
oh my
following.
God, my tunnel is nothing, my star. What am I star? Did I have a star? Oh, you are my star. And now you're my star, and I'm fitting in with your life. What's the art of serendipity? I call serendipity is when something what comes in is better than you ever dreamed about. And the thing is, if you know that you're looking for A, B, C, D, F, G list, and that's all, you would never recognize that person because you will reject them by definition of what you're looking for. Oh, he's not tall, dark, and handsome. I can't date him. So what the art of serendipity is that you are open to possibilities, but you're very clear what makes you happy. And what can come in might look different from what you think will make you happy, but you might be surprised. And you have to be purely ready and open-hearted to the universe to come in over the person to surprise you and just like play the game with the universe. Let the universe to surprise you. It will happen. It's a law of detachment, actually. It's a law of detachment. When you detach from the outcome, you're able to embrace uncertainty. And uncertainty is sometimes not comfortable. But if you're comfortable with uncertainty and you don't know how things are, you somehow diffuse fear. And you allow this different energy come in when your past conditioning is not ruling your expectations. And this is when law of attraction is coming into you. It's not easy to do, but at least trying and to be on the right path, it's a big deal. And that's what I help people kind of like maybe making baby steps, but when they make few, they don't need me anymore. They're on the right path or their own journey and finding what they're looking for. And, you know, because once you find the person, the whole thing only starts from that moment on. It's not enough to find someone to be happy. You will have to do a lot of work to be happy with that person.
Hi, Sophia. My name is Joe. I'm a pretty regular, active, healthy, and successful guy with education, career, hobbies, friends, personality, and all that. I've been dating like a crazy person in the last 18 months, but nothing long-term has become of it. The whole rest of my life seems to be going fantastic except for finding that special someone to share it with. I'm confident that you can help me find such a person. Sincerely, Joe.
What is pursuing love deliberately? You're not desperate to find someone. No. There is a difference between, you know, people say, well, if you're looking for something, it's never happened. You have to stop looking and then it comes. But it doesn't include your intention. It doesn't exclude. So you need to know exactly what you want, exactly what you're worth. And I'm after this, and I not settle for less. But you know this and you make some efforts and steps towards this. The difference is me actively searching for love versus being desperately searching for love is in one little thing. I'm happy being single, but if I find someone, I'll be happier. The person who is desperately singing, I'm not happy by myself. My life is not good enough because I don't have this another person. Once I find them, I'll be happy. So that person who is unemotional and living out of left side of the brain, he's actually not entirely connected with himself spiritually. And I don't mean religious here. I mean spiritual is that I understanding your ego, I accepting, forgiving, able and open for communication. And I'm not driven by my ego in these relationships. So he is withdrawing himself from feelings because they're too scary, because they can hurt. So it's easy to deny it for yourself and to feel safe and saying, oh, I'm not into this. It's less painful. So a lot of times people neglect that side, or they suppress it, or they stay away from this and they disconnected with themselves on that deeper level, because that makes them safer in their mind. But that creates separation from the world. They're like, oh, I like her. Well, she's a doctor. She doesn't have kids. She has the same goals. Let's just go there and see how it's going to work. But you might not be emotionally in sync, and then the connection would not have a foundation for development, even though by the book you kind of like match. Does that make sense? Like, well, we're perfect for each other, but it's just not working when it comes to everyday life. Why?
Sophia, I consistently feel blessed to be experiencing life in the unique and personal way in which I do. At the same time, I look forward to the adventure of sharing my experience of life with a partner, and in having the privilege and opportunity to share in that person's life. I am so excited about undertaking this adventure with you, and to seeing where it leads me. Warm regards, Giselle.
Now, intellectual connection is important for a lot of people, and a lot of people come and say, well, I'm looking for somebody very intelligent, but just intellectual connection with the physical brings you nowhere, because intellectual connection is really information exchange. The only one which can be fulfilled and satisfied outside of your relationship with the partner. So without intellectual connection, relationship can actually survive. Women in general are looking for two things in a man. I want chemistry, and I want the man to be in emotional sync with me. Women in general, I think, much more emotional creatures than men are. So finding someone who understands and meet them at the same place is really important. So it's, I would say in most relationships, it's one of the, even though by statistics they say it's money, I believe a little bit opposite. I think emotional things which people miss with each other kind of like causes miscommunication, and doesn't allow people to keep what they got. And the point is not to come one day to the place where you're all perfect and your partner is perfect and your relationship perfect. It's pretty much the place where you understand it's not perfect and it doesn't make any difference, but you're still happy. Because, you know, like all the people like, oh, it's not my business. Well, it's always going to be so. And we're not perfect, and we make mistakes. And we go wrong, and we hurt other people's feelings, even the best ones. Oh, she's a perfect wife, or he's a perfect husband, but they still go wrong. They're just being forgiven by their partners and met halfway. That's why their marriage is sustained. Not because they don't have flaws, or they just do not do anything wrong, or they don't make any mistakes. Not at all. It's like, I trust you, Sophia. Are they all pretty?
Are good looking? That doesn't do anything for me.
It's different for everyone, and I think love is individualization of spirit. And I think when you meet the person with whom you sync on all levels, you have this pure connection when you feel like one, physically, sensually, emotionally, spiritually. You can be around this person and do nothing, and to be in blissful feeling from just looking at them. And you're also so connected that this person understands you without you talking. They just know how you feel. That's what true love to me would be, I think.
Well, being alone, definitely I have flexibilities, so I can do whatever I want, and because I want to spend a lot of time reading, I want to spend a lot of time doing research in my jobs, some technologies that I'm interested, I want to learn, and that's definitely the benefits of being single, I guess. And the downside of being single is definitely sometimes I feel lonely, yeah. Especially in some sentiment, this kind of when I'm getting emotional, or for example that okay, this is a holiday, or this is like Valentine's Day, and or this is a cold winter day is snowy and I'm alone at home. And I think it's just emotionally lonely. This is the downside.
All the things that I love to do, I do more because I have more time to myself. There are disadvantages too. There's eating dinner alone, eating breakfast alone. Yeah, there's a lot of that time that I feel lonely, and I don't have a sex life, and that's something I miss a lot.
When I've dated a few girls recently, they've brought to my attention several times that it's obvious that I have not been in a steady relationship or lived with anyone for a long, long time because I don't initially think about the other person. So, for example, we're making dinner and I don't dish up their plate, sort of a thing. Like, we're making dinner together and I just don't take the initiative to go that extra step and make sure their plate is good and ready to eat. Just the little things like that I've been thinking about myself for so long that I don't step out and think about what the other person needs or wants.
Well, I think there's good and bad to not being domesticated. I would like to see myself in a domesticated role, but I think for the amount of time that I've been pushing myself and getting out there and doing the things that I really want to do, I think that I'm going to make a stronger mate when I do find that person to settle down with. So it's good and bad, but it's gonna be a learning curve once I find that person. But I think it's not an insurmountable goal, right? So it's a good thing.
But living alone is great. I don't feel lonely, if you will. You build your own sanctuary, and if you have the opportunity of building another sanctuary with someone else in a relationship, great.
I'm alone, and I'm fine being alone. But when you're lonely, there's some really dark moments there. I'm fine, and I'm the girl that everyone likes to hang out with. But when you go home night after night alone, and you wake up alone, and okay, well, what am I going to do today? Whatever I want to do, which is great. But whatever I want to do sometimes is just really lonely.
For me, it's you either have a meaningful relationship or you don't. I can have tons and tons of friends, which I do, but if none of them are a meaningful relationship for me, one person that I could really devote a lot of time and effort and attention to and love and fulfill, then there is a void there.
My name is Cole, I'm 46 years old, and I am single.
I do a lot of different things for work. I freelance write, I'm a freelance graphic designer. I have a background in theater and acting, but I've kind of moved away from being in the spotlight toward doing design work in the Seattle Fringe theater community. So I'm doing a lot of props and graphics designing and that kind of thing. My favorite thing about living in Seattle is probably the cultural diversity. But I think a lot of people will roll their eyes when they hear you say that, because for all its touted cultural diversity, it can be a very insular city. But I grew up in a rural community. I grew up in rural Oregon, which for anybody who thinks outside of the box, even in the most infinitesimal way, that's death. So I love being in a larger, grander community of people. The things that I dislike about living in Seattle are it can be terribly, terribly insular, and it's surprisingly cliquish. There's a lot of pocket communities, but they don't mix well, which is surprising in a metropolitan city. But this is something I've heard consistently from other people when I've asked them about how they feel about living here and why it's such a challenge to find a suitable partner. It's that people don't mix as well as you would think. At least that's been my impression. And that's something I don't like. I have no kids. I'd love to have some. And I do believe I'm family oriented. I'm very close with my family, and I'm actually close with folks that I know who have children. I'm kind of like the, pseudo parent, which is kind of cool. I mean, anybody who has a healthy emotional life, who craves contact and interaction with other people, I truly believe can only tolerate their own company for so long before they start getting twitchy. So, yeah, it's kind of spooky, the notion of being by yourself for an unforeseeable period of time. I think one of the best compliments I got was, what I like about your stature, Cole, is that you are sturdy and non-threatening, which I thought was actually a very kind, a very kind comment. You're non-threatening, so. If I could change one thing about the women I'm attracting, it would probably be the quantity of emotional baggage they bring to the table. Because I'm a nurturer. I always want to fix. I always want to help. And I cannot not be kind. I cannot, and I compromise a lot. So if I'm imagining that if I could eliminate that, things would be a lot easier. I don't mind living alone. It's been tough. I've gotten more accustomed to it. I am a very public social person. There's a great deal of what I do, there's a great deal about my personality that is about interacting with other people. And let's face it, there are times where you really would like to turn to someone and say, wasn't that really cool? Or did this ever occur to you? And you realize there's no one there to share that with. And then that I have a hard time with. I admit that I talk to the cat. And the internet, allows you to reach out and access people, but we know that's not the same. I mean, you feel a certain amount of validation when someone responds to you, but it's not the same. It's not the same as having that tactile or that warmth of interacting one-on-one or with another person. Kurt Vonnegut said it best. This is my favorite. He said, a relationship is about building a nation of two. And I always thought that was such a beautiful quote, is that you put two people together and the idea is that you give one another everything you need. And I know for some folks that sounds terribly, terribly idealistic and maybe like even suffocatingly romantic, but I've always thought it was a beautiful image. When I was younger, I suffered a lot of criticism by my peers because there were some, I think they actually intimated that, there was such a revolving door in my relationship process that it was unhealthy, or I was, doing consistently stupid things. And that changed when I hit my late 30s. But my argument has always been, I was always looking for the one. The path is a difficult one. I was not out to get laid. To a certain extent. I was not, my goal was to find the one. That's what I was looking for. Do career aspirations play a part when I'm looking for a mate? Yes and no. It's really about what that person is passionate about and that they are passionate about what they're doing. Could I relate to somebody who is passionate about being a career manager at McDonald's? No, probably not. But I would have to respect and, if not admire them for feeling strongly about what they're doing, to believe in it, because that sort of reflects on their degree of happiness. And I think that's what's important. I have stood by partners who were very ambitious, academically, corporate-wise, and but that didn't necessarily mean they were happy people. I've dated people who were artists, academics, and that's all well and good, but I've always been curious as to whether if it was someone that worked in, say, the healthcare industry, or programming, or, market research, whatever. I believe that to do anything well, you have to be a creative person. And I've gotten in arguments with people, and they say, "Well, I'm not a creative person. All I do is debug code." I'm like, that is a creative process. It's not like playing with clay. It's not like making pretty pictures. But you are accessing a part of your brain that demands that you problem solve. So yes, it is a creative process. And I think I always actually find myself defending the other person's position that they are not creative. Or how do I say, wait. I frequently find myself getting in debates with folks who do not believe they are creative, arguing that they are and they don't know it. I think that's one of the scariest scenarios you can role play as a human being, is to be dying alone, to be lying in a hospital bed and there's no one there to say goodbye to you. That's the dilemma. Is anybody going to show up at my funeral? Does anybody really, really love me? So yeah, no, but I don't think that's going to happen. Honestly, I think I work too hard at trying to connect with people, about being honest, about being sincere, about being a loving person. I work too fucking hard at that. I don't think I'm going to die alone. I may not have like a romantic partner, but it's not just going to be me and the cat and a couple of goats. I think there are going to be people around. The Killer Parrot. And many of my friends know this woman, only they don't remember her name anymore. They just know her as Crazy Bird Lady. Because she had this cockatiel, white, not a cockatoo, but something smaller, more streamlined, and exceedingly vicious. She and I have been dating for about 2 weeks, and she kept talking about this bird, how adorable this bird was, and how fond, and all these quirky things he did, and how he chewed the labels off all the canned foods in the pantry, and yada, yada, yada. So I came over for dinner, and I walked into the kitchen through the back door, and she's standing at the other end of the house, in the living room, with the bird on her shoulder, and she says, "Okay, stop, right there. Don't move. Let me approach you." I was like, okay, this is not good. So she walks very carefully, and this bird, is like right on to me. I can see these eyes, and next thing I know, he just explodes off her shoulder and lands right on my face, takes its little pincer beak and sticks it right into my nostril, freaking pierces my nose, right? And it's like shaking my nose, and I'm like, get it off me, can you? And I'm screaming her name. I'm not going to say her name. And I'm screaming her name. Get him off me, because I know if I touch this bird, it will be dead. So, yeah. And she's just all aflutter, and pardon the pun, she's all aflutter, and she comes in, she grabs the bird and whisks him away. Oh, she says, I'm so sorry. He's never done anything like that before. And I'm just bleeding. There's blood pouring down back in the back of my throat. And so I work at letting this whole thing go until we're at a party about 3 weeks later. And in the interim time, she's saying things like, he's never done anything like that before. He's a good bird. So I go to this party, and her best friend walks up to me, and he says, did that bird attack you? I'm like, yeah. That thing is psycho. He attacks everyone. Don't date women with parrots anymore. All right, and scene. My ideal date in Seattle would be probably hinge around going to a show, a live show, like a play, because I'm a big supporter of that. It would probably be dinner and drinks, long enough in advance of the show that we'd have time to talk, interact. Afterwards, we'd have plenty to talk about, and we'd stay up. We'd close down whatever place we were at talking. That's been the most ideal situation, is that we just spend an intensive amount of time verbally interacting and weaving a story between the two of us.
Windshield Chiaroscuro. Okay, this was the very first comic book short story I ever wrote. I sent it out about 20 years ago as a sort of a sampler of my writing ability. And it got darn close to being published in a Twilight Zone comic book published by Now Comics, but it didn't happen. So ultimately what I did was I adapted it to radio. So it finally found life as an audio play.
So, do you do this often? Take little rides to nowhere?
Yes, I guess I do.
Oh,
Well, I hope you don't mind.
I guess not. So, what's the big kick in driving around alone? Or are you intimate with some all-night station attendants?
Well, it's more than just driving. I enjoy being around people, but sometimes, albeit a lot of times these days, I've just got to get away by myself. I have the urge to hop in the car, turn over the engine, put it in gear,
and go cruising downtown.
And head for an old, dark, starlit country road I can find. Well, I just let my mind relax and drift. I stare into the halo of the oncoming headlights, let the shadows dance off my peripheral vision. I let my imagination go into automatic. I see things. Things I don't think that everyone can see.
Okay, so how do you work this?
You mean that? Seriously?
Sure. I want to know if you have something here. Or if sleep deprivation is simply deranged you.
Well, I guess I've never really thought about it. I mean, I've never concocted some recipe for car tripping made easy. Okay, take this car coming up. Just by looking at the headlights, what can you tell?
Let's see. The headlights are round. I'd say Volkswagen Bug.
Right, good. But all those old VWs have those round, low-hung headlights. In the dark and by the rate it's coming at us, it's hard to tell if it's a van, Bug, or even a Jeep, right? There, now did you see that? Like layers of metal exoskeleton arcing from the hump of the headlights? I mean, as it cleared us, some sort of techno-organic dung beetle?
You're such a geek. Come on, let's do another.
Okay, we'll try again, and this time I'll talk you through it. Focus on what you don't see, from the shadows up. Let the rain on the windshield become your brush. Cock your head. Squint your eyes. And scrunch up your face. Go easy. The effect we're looking for only lasts an instant. We don't want to cause any permanent damage. There, now that was fantastic. Did you see it?
Well, kinda. Yeah, I think so. This is cool.
What is love in a romantic context? It's a mirror. That person reflects back all that is good in you, all that is brilliant, all that is lasting, and you do the same for that other person.
I can't really imagine what's gonna be, what it gonna be for now, but I don't think I will have kids, and I will be really dependent on my significant other. I probably won't work as hard as I am right now. I probably won't be as ambitious as I am right now. Yeah.
In our society today, everything is so rushed and condensed and fast, and we're all products of this digital age. Everyone wants things like yesterday, and there is no patience. And in the past, people were forced to, good or bad, they were forced to work things out, the better or worse, sickness and health, all of those things. That a vow is what you take a vow for, and they took that serious.
I suppose I'd be naive about some things. I have a lot of life experience since I've been on my own for the last 15 years. So, and I like myself a lot, but it would just be different. I have friends who have that life, who've been married since they were right out of high school, and I look at them and I love their life too.
I think as for me, if I was, married right out of high school, I'd be a lot more responsible right now. I'd hopefully have a couple kids, and working at my father's business. By this time, if I was married, probably be running it, and just working hard and just to raising my kids and whatnot. So I think it would have a big difference in life.
Well, I grew up in a really small community where when you graduated from high school, you usually got the part-time job at the bank, married the farmer, and had 2.5 kids. That was 20 years ago now. And I have girlfriends who haven't left that community, and they're really happy. They have their kids, and that's great for them. Had I chosen that route for me, I look back and I think of all the opportunities I would have missed out on, all the travel, all of the professional projects that I've been a part of, the skills that I've developed. And it makes me happy to think that I didn't choose that path, that wasn't for me. It's fine for them, but it wasn't for me, because I would have missed out on so much that makes me who I am today.
I think how my life would have been different if I got married at an early age is I probably would have fulfilled the vision I had as an early 20-something-year-old. And I remember being a member of the Seattle Supersonics at the time, and just being one of the young guys in the team, and how a lot of the guys, the older guys, were married and had children and would kind of play and run around the locker room, and we'd all be tossing and turning with them and throwing balls with them. And that was my vision of what my life would be like by the time I got to late 20s, early 30s, that I'd be married with children and having that same kind of scenario played out as an old veteran NBA guy, and my kids are running around the locker room and the younger guys are playing with them.
For a single person, one of the first things I ask someone is, are you clear about, or have you given thought, some in-depth thought to the type of person that you are looking to share your life with, and have you written it down? And if they haven't, I have an exercise, and it's a visioning exercise, and it's meant to have you sit down and think really clearly about who is it that you're looking to attract. Because from there, I can then begin to cultivate the design, and if the client doesn't want to or manages to not get to doing that exercise on their own, then I will walk them through it personally, and to get them started on getting clear with that. The niche for like the love and romance market is a natural fit for me because I've always been in love with love. My approach is all about supporting and creating that supportive environment for love to be invited into a space, for it to blossom and flourish in someone's life and within their space. And then you've got this kind of hanging out here and everything. Yeah. This could be more streamlined and feel more, less. I mean, most couples are going to want to spend a lot of time in the bedroom, but you know, if your space is not, if your bedroom is not like supporting that, and with, you know, the really comfortable linens, a really comfortable mattress, many elements that come into play in a bedroom space, what kinds of activities are going to be going on in there. I mean, it can get, you know, pretty intimate sometimes when I'm talking about my clients, because I want to support their love life the best that I can. And so we talk about those things sometimes. So it's all about your intention. Here's your space, and how your space is supporting or repelling and hindering the attraction and invitation of the love life that you're looking to experience. It's about creating almost that magnet, if you will, like what is your space. Think about, you know, a place where a couple exists. Like there, it says 2 people exist here. There's 2 of this, 2 of that. You know, it supports 2 people being there together. It's about creating that experience as if it already is, as if you already are partnered, as if you're already in that relationship. You know, so like if you're constantly going, oh, I'm woefully single, I'm woefully, you know, oh, whoa, you know, I can never find the right person, whatever. Well, you're just going to continue to attract that reality to yourself. So I'm here not only as an interior decorator who helps create that supportive foundation, but also to help support them in sort of changing the way that they're thinking, getting that experience, getting into it, getting that all over you, you know, kind of, oh, you know, what's it feel like to be in that relationship, you know? And then I've lived in Seattle 11 years, so yeah, I'm networked all over the place. And so, you know, oh, well, I'd like to go experience that. I'm always connecting people to other people, or connecting people to the resources that they need. So, you know, not just your interior decorator, but I'm also like a resource person for, here's where you can go to do that. And you want to meet someone that does that, well, you should go over here, you know. Oh, you should know this person because they do that and they can help you with that. And so it's very it's very well rounded, and it's more than just an interior decorating service, really. When I first met with this client, she was overwhelmed with clutter and disorganization in 3 areas: the living room, dining room, and the bedroom. She was in a non-committed relationship in a state of flux, and she wanted to be in a committed, forward-moving partnership. We consulted in her bedroom, which was too small, cluttered, disorganized, and her intention was to relocate to the more spacious room down the hall. She had an inspiration for her bedroom, the romantic print of Gustav Klimt's The Kiss. She'd have the perfect space to hang opposite her bed in her new room. And it's a great image to view as you drift off to sleep. As we began the actual redesigning, we talked about the colors in her bedroom inspiration art and what things she had to pull those colors into her room. She had these gorgeous purple velvet curtains, a soft, silky scarf that we used as a throw at the end of her bed to add color and texture, and the rug also pulls colors of burgundy and gray to the end of the bed. Her living room was cluttered with disorganization, projects, and random things belonging elsewhere. She was emotionally overwhelmed from the thought of dealing with it all. In the living room, as we decluttered and organized, things began to feel calmer, more welcoming. We moved things out, including relocating the dining room chairs to the dining room. We tossed dusty, foul-scented potpourri, and my all-time favorite, getting rid of the dust bunnies. Ask yourself the question, is your love life collecting dust? That burgundy and gray rug, well, it vacillated between the living room and the bedroom, and it settled finally in the living room. It's been said that a good rug can be one of the best of your higher investments but it can be a great space for snuggling and romance in front of the fireplace, especially if you've got one of the really soft, plushy ones. As we wrapped up the living room redesign, we discussed the final touch, which was the art she wanted to frame and hang. The end result? An organized space, more calm, more inviting, and definitely ready for a new beginning. From emotional overwhelm to happy and relaxed, this client is now much more at ease with her new living room. Back in her dining area, we discussed our approach to the dining room redesign, including the clutter on the table. She had a really nice hutch in which she was storing a statue of Buddha, who symbolizes compassion, always a great quality to have in a relationship. So we brought Buddha out and we created a romance altar around him. The entire corner between her eating counter and the hutch was piled with clutter and boxes, so we cleared those out and we created a counter welcoming of entertaining for 2 or more. Kitchens? Well, they have a great history in being a gathering space for conversation during entertaining, so having a space for guests to sit while you cook is optimal. And a clear counter also makes a great bar for buffets and cocktails. As we discussed the final details in the dining area, such as what to do, if anything, with her bookcase, we realized it really just needed some tidying. And so we moved on to completing the romance altar, laying rose petals at the foot of Buddha, adding a statue of 2 to represent coupling, and of course lighting the candle to signify lighting the fire in your romance and provide ambient lighting during those special moments. In the end, with 3 rooms redesigned for love and romance, this client is now on her way to attracting the romantic relationship she envisions. I'm looking at how a client is operating or how a client is feeling inside of themselves. They have space, is there space sort of mentally, emotionally kind of space, and do they have space physically in their home space for a partnership? And if they're a person who has a bunch of things, and some people like to collect things, and some people have an extraordinary amount of a lot of things they're collecting, and they don't have the space to really support that amount of things being out there and still creating that element of breathing room that makes a person feel like, hey, I can sit down in here and feel like I'm not like being bombarded by all these things, and there's like energetic room and space for relationship to flourish, and for all that to mix well together. So if someone has a lot of things, I will coach them about, I call it rotating. So you pick some things, and if you're a movie collector and you've got your Superman and if your cartoon character is Batman and in your Star Wars collection or whatever, you might pick, well, this month it's going to be Star Wars and X-Men or something like that, and so you would have them out and then you would put the other ones away. And then the next month or whatever time frame you choose, then you cycle it out, or maybe you pick a few characters from each movie, or however, something like that, or if it's unicorns and fairies, or whatever your collection is. And then the really cool thing about that is that you actually create a new relationship with your little things, because those go away and come out and you're like, hey, fairy, oh, it's so good to see you, because when things are there all the time, you almost lose an appreciation for them because it's so there. It's just always there. It's always there. You're always like, oh yeah, there it is, and there's a collection. But if you're rotating, then you have the opportunity to like renew your appreciation for your collection. Where I can go with a client's project largely, it's based off of the budget that they have to spend, and really very much catered to the person, their style, what kinds of things they'd like to have in their space versus what they have in their space. Some people are like, oh, my space just doesn't even fit me, it doesn't feel like me, I hate this sofa, oh god, those curtains are the ugliest things ever, please save me, you know, here, just make it happen. And then some people are like, well, I really like this, but I just feel like it needs a little bit of extra, you know, so it's highly specified, highly catered, niche field. And love can be the opening to allowing yourself to be seen in the most tenderest of moments, the most private, personal, inside moments, maybe the moments that you wouldn't let anybody else see. And allowing them to see everything that's happened to you, or many things that's happened to you that you maybe wouldn't share, or feeling safe enough to share that with someone so that you can grow together and expand as humans together and as a couple. So, you know, it's that general love has many faces kind of things, but all these different aspects of love kind of make the full package. Sometimes it's really bubbling, tingly, and exciting. Woo! Sometimes it's very grounding. And sometimes that's really like, woo!
It would depend on how far I wanted to take it. I don't want to date a devil worshiper. Mormons can be a little strict. Jewish people have their own, you know, but I'm a Christian. And so you find things in common with people of the same religion. So to a certain point, yeah.
I don't think religion should play a role in getting to know somebody, because everybody has their own beliefs, and you should just be worrying about, is that person good for me, not what their religious background is.
I would say religious is not important to me, and I'm not really a religious person. So as long as they don't affect my daily life or force me to do whatever they're doing, I think I'm fine for now, but I don't know about later.
I don't know if I could be with somebody who is completely, you know, agnostic and, you know, it's just because I wouldn't want to try to convince her, and I wouldn't want to, you know, I don't know if she would make me uncomfortable or I'd be uncomfortable making her uncomfortable for what I believe in, and the reason why I make my decisions to this day, because it's all up to the man upstairs.
Whether he labels himself Buddhist or humanist or Christian, whatever he labels himself, but if he and I share the same values, you know, we want to live the same way according to the same principles, then, well, that's important.
Yes and no, I guess. So I am sort of a Buddhist, but I'm not a very religious person. I'm not very spiritual. So I go to church with my friends, and I'm open to Christianity, but I don't quite like people who are very, very into religions, who actually are kind of a little bit over the top. So I think that matters.
In my dating relationships, religion matters. I've tried going outside of what I personally believe and dating people who believe something different, but that hasn't ever really worked out for me. I think for me, religion is very important in my relationships.
My best relationships have worked when the two of us, myself and my girlfriend, have understood that God is going to be the center of our relationship. We'll continue to circle back to this point when we don't agree, or we agree not to agree, or we start thinking a little too much individualistic or selfishly about ourselves. We'll realize that there is something greater out there, and that, for me, is my religion and my faith and belief in God.
I believe that it's not just a feeling, it's a choice.
You have to wake up wanting to love this person no matter how upset you get, or, you know, if they do you wrong. Literally, it's through thick and thin. And to me, love never fails. It doesn't stop because something bad happens. It will just keep going and going and going.
When you love someone, you're willing to make them happy, even at your own inconvenience. You're willing to put their needs above your own. And I think the most important part of love is show me by your actions, not by your words. For example, someone says, I'm sorry, but then they do it again. They're not sorry. Show me you love me by your actions, not by your words. That's what love is.
I want to be real more than anything. And I want to see other people for who they really are. That's how people make deep connections, and that, you know, feels better than anything.
It's that feeling you get in your stomach, the happy feeling, not a bad feeling. Good feeling in your stomach when you see somebody you care about, somebody you would give everything for.
For me, love is reciprocated. Love is mutual. Love is respect. Love is honesty. Love is passion. You know, we talk a lot about falling in love, and I think that's something that happens. But being in love is something that takes devotion and a continual decision to be in love, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's a very beautiful thing. It's a very precious thing. Just something that needs to be nurtured. It's not something that just happens.
Tested, found unworthy. If you couldn't love me, then nobody could. Please don't leave me. Explain the whole thing to me again. Tell me how one could give everything and the other gives none. I can't sleep. And I can't breathe. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to anymore. Shatter. My heart can't comprehend something so seemingly lovely and true was really a lie. Busted. I'm all cracked up. You left me empty, lying in tears by the side of the road. I can't desire.